So aloha and welcome to iTeach808, Empowering Hawaii's Teachers in Technology Conference, sponsored by the Augustine Educational Foundation and Sacred Hearts Academy, Honolulu. My name is Courtney, and I'll be facilitating this session. And we're so honored to have Baird join us today and share their experience through a 45-minute presentation named The Inquisitive Cue Ball and PBL. Please be aware that we'll be recording this session. So if you don't like being recorded, you may want to consider turning off your camera during the session or reviewing the recording afterwards. The recording will be made available on YouTube and shared on iTeach808's website a week after this event. Without further ado, I'll turn it over to Ty. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and I'm going to go ahead and share the cover page as well as, can everybody go ahead and see that? And
I can see it. Should be okay.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to go ahead and just tell you a little bit about myself. I always like to know a little bit about the presenter. Before I do that, I do want to acknowledge our sponsors and thank them very much, Sacred Heart School, as well as the St. Augustine Foundation for supporting this and supporting all of us in our endeavors in this. I first want to say good morning. Thank you for giving up your Saturday. That's so nice of you and kind of you. My presentation today is on the Inquisitive Cue Ball. My name is Baird, and I am a special education teacher here on the island of Maui. I wanted to share that I've been teaching on this island for 13 years. I've been teaching in the state of Hawaii for 13 years. One of those was on the island of Lanai. The rest have been here on the island of Maui. I teach currently at Lihikai Elementary School. I am a special education teacher for 4th grade, and I really love my job. I attended the University of Notre Dame. I have my special education certification in mild and moderate, and I'm really happy you're all here. I want to first start by sharing that I am not sponsored by Cue Ball. They have not given me a free cue ball. There is nothing tied with this. I just have been really impressed and really intrigued as to the results that I've seen with it used in my classroom and with my students in the general education classroom, as well as special education needs. So if I go ahead and get started, you'll see that there's some pictures on the cover page, and these are several classrooms across the United States who use the cue ball in their classroom for small group instruction, for student voice and student learning, as well as maybe a morning meeting or maybe a morning discussion. I'm going to go to my second slide. What is cue ball? Cue ball was first introduced to the United States, or first made known to us through television with Shane Cox on Shark Tank. And he presented this to the 3 judges and was initially presenting it so that it would be made as a device for meetings for people who maybe were nervous about speaking in front of their groups, or staff meetings, or groups that had speakers who had a hard time presenting in front of people. So he was marketing this as a way to hope that they would buy into his product. Unfortunately and fortunately, it was a win-win in a different way. He started approaching them by asking for them to take on the project, and only one of the judges accepted his plea. So he went into this with, I believe, roughly $40,000. He had intended for this to be made for businesses, but ironically enough, 90% of his cue ball sales would come from schools. So I always find that interesting and valuable to share with teachers, counselors, librarians. The cue ball is the blue ball down at the bottom. What the device that's next to it is a cover. So cue ball has many covers as well. You can get covers that are with numbers, so it's math geared. You can get covers that also have question words on it, almost like what we used to do a long time ago with the beach ball, with other, I guess, basketballs or different objects in our classrooms. So he presented his idea to Shark Tank in 2017. He then went forward with trying to make sales. He was floored and shocked, as well as impressed, that schools bought into his idea. It is a ball-shaped sphere, like an object that's throwable, has a microphone. You can attach it to your shirt. I attach mine to my shirt, or I take it off and then I pass it to a student. It's a technology device. That's what it's considered, and it is throwable. It is safe. I consider it an engagement toy or a learning tool. There are many things that the cue ball does for the classroom or for different subject matters. It's been in the classroom since 2017. However, it was backordered when he first initially gave it to everybody and told them that this would be really a great idea. I use it because it encourages quieter students to speak and to share. It supports whole group instruction because everyone wants to use it and to try it out. So what happens is or I've seen students calm down, wait to listen, even though the voice is amplified. You're able to encourage your whole class or your whole group to listen and to pay attention or to be more present in your lesson. This helps highlight the speaking voice for students without them yelling or screaming. Support students when giving presentations, speeches, and show and tell in the classroom for kindergarten and first grade. I've seen that at our school right now, or at my school right now. It's adaptable for all ages and grade levels as well as abilities. It really helps our fidgeters, our kids who have a hard time doing things with their fingers or with their hands. It's able to make growth in your students' learning. I've seen spikes in students with their grade level standards, with student engagement, building their critical thinking skills, and their confidence levels. They come out of their shells because they want to share this and they're excited. It promotes STEM, STEAM, and PBL learning, and it offers more engaged and interactive lessons. It allows for teachers, librarians, counselors, and other educational support to maintain calm, serene, and peaceful environments. The speaker voice is amplified because the microphone is increasing their volume of their voice rather than having the students yell. In addition, cue ball makes it so that it's throwable. I think I mentioned that earlier, but it's throwable and safe. When Shane Cox had first presented his idea to Shark Tank, he asked, or let them know rather, that he was investigating a patent, that there was a patent pending for his quiet toss feature so that the microphone would turn off when it's thrown so that you and I don't lose battery, but also so that children and other people wouldn't necessarily damage it on purpose. So he was looking at ways to make it more usable, to make it doable for teachers in the classroom or for people to use and not have to worry about their device. He did eventually get his patent. It has 10 hours of that battery life. So when you're using it in the classroom, if you leave it on, it's not necessarily going to die the next morning. I had a question a while back when I gave my presentation. Does cue ball come and ready to go in other languages? That I tried to research. I don't know to date. I know that Alelo is taught in our schools, and we have immersion programs. I don't know that feature with language is is adaptable yet to it, but when speaking, it would still amplify your voice. It doesn't necessarily record English already, so I'm not sure if it would do other languages yet. We have pros and cons of every device that we introduce to our students in classrooms, and we really have to make a conscious effort to decide what we use in the classroom and why we use what we use, what our benefit is for our students, as well as what the end result is going to be. So whenever I'm introducing something, I like to really brainstorm, talk with my other colleagues to try to figure out what's the best thing that's going to get this student to learn, or what's the best thing that's going to increase engagement for this student. The pros with cue ball, it does highlight the quiet student. It allows them to still maintain their voice and then to be able to share their point and feel confident in doing so, so they don't have to yell or scream or worry about being heard. It promotes active listening. These are standards in our state for every grade level, that we are active participants and that we're active listeners and learners. It develops critical thinking, wait time, and deep discussion with both students and teachers. We all are tasked with that these days, I feel like, and that's very important that we impart on our students. Years ago, our former superintendent, had 3 focuses. One of her focuses was student voice. This device was introduced to encourage that in my classroom. I have several special education students who don't share. They don't enjoy sharing for whatever reason, if that's culturally, if that's made to their disability, or if that's just because they don't feel that their thoughts are valued, and this increased their desire to be part of the lesson or to be engaged or to be a part of it. So I felt that student voice and engagement was a very important piece of their learning. Collaboration. One of the pictures on the cover page was of a group of students over in the right corner, my right corner, I should say, sitting around, and the cue ball is being passed from station to station or center to center. So they're looking at sharing the device with centers and working towards that. Collaboration among teachers. I've seen teachers use the cue ball in staff meetings, but everyone gets a voice and we get to share it. The SEL piece in the classroom, respecting someone while speaking and waiting for the turn to talk or to share. Social emotional learning is also a standard in across our grade levels, preschool to high school, that we respect someone's thought and that we don't have to necessarily agree with them, but that we are willing to listen to what they have to say. So that promotes that for students and student learning. The cue ball, a pro of the cue ball is that it is durable and throwable and that it is safe. I had a student one year who threw it across the room. It fell, wasn't damaged, nothing affected it or made it destructive. They also sell a warranty policy on it, but their customer service is wonderful. They're very helpful. It is flexible with your classroom structure and seating arrangement. So if you have flexible seating, or you're wondering about the distance with using the cue ball, we had a student who took it down the hallway. We could still hear him. So it is possible to use it or hear the voice being amplified when you are not in the same vicinity, I guess, or the same setup. With that, if I go to the cons, the things that make us sad as teachers, it costs $179 for the device. With shipping and other expenses involved, like tax, I believe it comes to $212.85 coming to Hawaii. The other fun add-ons, like your covers, your sterilizing bin, which is a wonderful idea now because of COVID, is something that I know a lot of teachers who are friends of mine have purchased, but it doesn't come with it. They're not included. So all your covers, your sterilizing bin, additional maybe cards, cue ball cards, things that they're making to do the add-ons or make it more fun for you if you want those things with it. They're not included. So all you're paying for, all you're getting is the actual ball or the sphere, the device. It looks like the blue one that was on the second slide. If you look at the math numbers next to it, that's one of the covers. So maybe you want to use and focus the cue ball in a math lesson for counting. You might put the cover on the cue ball to remind students that that's what you're focusing on. Or not, up to you. I know plenty of teachers who don't buy the covers and they just purchase the sterilizing bin, and that works for them as well. Germs with the younger students. I've seen this only because I used to be a kindergarten and first grade teacher, second grade as well. They, for some reason, no matter how much we teach them, they like to bring the ball close as they can to their mouth. So it, gets all their germs and makes them, they're touching it. I know a lot of high school teachers were like, oh my gosh, freaking out, but that is not a reason for me to not have one. I just put it in the sterilizing bin or get my Clorox wipes out, or rather not Clorox wipes, get your wipes out and just make sure that you clean it. If you have a cover on it, should be okay. But we know as teachers, we can spend a lot of time explaining to students how we treat things and how we care for things so that they're not doing that often. And you want them to be comfortable with this device. So doing that would help your students learn how to care for something. Cons, someone had asked me about how do you get a grant for them? That is possible, and we will talk about that. Let me see here. Inspiration for use of the cue ball. I like to think of Ben Franklin's quote that's right here. Tell me and I forget. Teach me and I remember. Involve me and I learn. I have seen that students who have a device that excites them and engages them and involves them, it invites them to be a part of your lesson. It invites them to feel valued in your classroom. It invites them to feel like they matter. And we're seeing a lot of our students who have been through a pandemic now that's going on for almost 3 years. This is something that builds classroom culture positively. I know it's expensive, but I know that it involves them in a way that I never thought was possible. It also minimizes discipline problems in the classroom. It controls it. Engagement is amplified. Students should be sharing or talking more than you and I or more than you and me are discussing things and talking. They should be talking with their peers and feeling like whatever they need as resources to engage them is available. So looking at this as a way to offer an exciting learning environment amplifies my classroom. Student confidence is increased. Students want to share, they want to speak, they want to present, they want to show you this cool thing called the cue ball. They want to show you how it's used, in what way you might use it. Promotion of student voice and student choice. Okay, I don't want to speak. I'm being asked to share my book report, or I'm being asked to give my speech. I don't want to speak, but if I have the cue ball, it's almost like having my friend read my book report for me. Now I'm reading my report. Now I'm adding to my presentation. I'm taking ownership of my learning and I'm practicing GLO. It's fun. I'm thinking of all my GLOs right now. So it also promotes those when we think about standards and GLOs. A desire to learn. We want to do that as teachers. We want kids and students to love and enjoy learning and to like being with us and to like being at school. I think it promotes a desire to do that. That's what I've seen. I've also seen inquiry-based instruction. There's been some science lessons I've taught where we've gone outside when one student is in charge of the experiments. I have other students who are using the cue ball to discuss what they see going on. It elicits student responses that are more deep or that offer more challenging and critical thinking questions for our students. Buzz group conversation piece. Buzz group is one of my favorite things I do with my students every Friday from 1 to 1:30 or 1:30 to 2 o'clock, whichever works for our schedule. We sit in a circle, social distancing as best we can, and we pass around the cue ball so that students can share anything that they'd like to share within reason and that's appropriate during this time, and they share it with the cue ball so everyone hears. It not only allows students to share, but when I'm teaching and giving instruction, it minimizes interruptions. So now these students have had an opportunity to share what they've been dying to tell me or what they want me to know. That's really critical, I think, in teaching, knowing that we have so many minutes and instructional minutes. So I like cue ball for our buzz group conversation piece. It also increases stamina for leveling up for our next grade level. Our students have a desire to advance and they just don't know how at certain times. So getting them to practice their speaking skills, their listening skills, making eye contact, choosing to pick a friend by throwing the ball to someone else. They have control of that learning environment. So that's a wonderful way for them to see the use of the cue ball. I would encourage you going forward to ask yourself, what would inspire you if you were given a cue ball? What would inspire you to use the cue ball in your classroom? What would make you want to try it out, want to not be so nervous, want to know about how to increase your student engagement with it, or what would you want your students to gain from that use? Some things that I've had teachers report back to me are, wow, this really increased my students' ability to count, building words, spelling, reading out loud, community meetings, morning meetings, things like that were really neat to hear from other teachers, because I like to hear back from teachers, both constructively and with kind criticism. How do I get one? So this is my favorite part because I always like to share. I believe that there are 3 of us in the room. Is that correct? I think so. So 3 things, or rather, how do I get one? The first website I always highlight and recommend is Donors Choose. They have funded individual cue balls for teachers. They've also funded cue balls for schools. There's a rolling cart where everybody charges their cue balls on it, and they pass them around the school campus. So every classroom has a cue ball, which is super cool and super ideal. That may not be possible in our schools or in our environments in Hawaii, but I'd like to think positively and think we can. Grants for technology on the cue ball webpage. They have a way for you to fill out a form. I know 3 teachers who have obtained a cue ball from doing just this. They've written all their information up. They've sent it back and forth to cue balls customer service, and they work with them and try to help them get a cue ball for their classroom or for their school or whatever their reason is. Shane Cox has been known to be very kind and very generous to schools. So I'm also told that. So that's really, really neat. I love supporting companies and hearing that from companies, because we spend so much of our own money on our own supplies, which is so wrong, but we know how it is, and we want to give our students the best. I have the utmost respect for all of you and all of what you're trying to do in the classroom. The third way is that you can just buy it directly from the Q-Ball site, which I recommend. I did try a while back to purchase one from Amazon. Unfortunately, Amazon will not ship a Q-Ball with Prime or without Prime to us here in Hawaii. It might be just something that they just don't do. I never heard a reason why. I thought at first maybe it was something that was in the packaging that just they couldn't do. But I would stay away from trying to purchase one from Amazon for right now, because it just wasn't possible. Purchase orders from schools are another way to get your cue balls. And if you can give a presentation to your school community, maybe they will fund one for you as well. So I think that is super, super neat. That schools, I've given a presentation at my school, and my principal was like, wow, like we should really try this out for our classrooms and our school communities, and more specifically special education, to see if it helps our students grow. So that was positive to hear. But I also think, as a teacher, I always love to learn new ways and innovative ways to encourage our students to be better and to learn and find something that makes them tick. So those are several ways that I have obtained information on how to get a cue ball. I also know that we have only a few people signed up for our presentation. So if you would do me the favor, if you are interested or would like one, I have a generous donor who's offered to purchase one cue ball for each one of you. I just need your school contact information so that I can get it sent out to you. And if you would put that in the chat for me, if you would like one. If you do not want one, you are not hurting my feelings. So that's your last way to get one, is if you'd like to try this device out. It is only the cue ball. It is not the cover or the sterilizing bin or all the gadgets, but I really want to promote this because I've seen how wonderful it is and what it does for students. So if you wouldn't mind, if you could put that in the chat for me, if you would like one, I'd love to get you one and have you try it out and see how incredible it can make your student growth and all that. So if you could do that for me, that would be so wonderful. And then I'm going to go to, I just thought it would be really neat to read some of the things that our students share, or that students have shared with me about why they like the cue ball. I have not had any experience with students who don't enjoy using the cue ball, so that's a wonderful thing to say, but that's not to say that every student's going to like this or enjoy this. I do acknowledge and understand that some of our students just don't learn that way, and that's very difficult. But I think we all owe it to our students to try. I do want to share, though, I think it's super powerful for our students to share how they feel when they use something or why they like a device. So just some quotes and comments from our wonderful students, since they are our bosses and since they work for us. It helps me learn. I have a voice. I am better. My peers listen to me. I am learning to wait my turn so I can use cue ball. It makes learning fun and exciting. Can I take it home? One student thought that this was going to be something that he could use for ever and ever and not bring it back. And I was like, no, we're going to keep it at school. Thank you, but no. But that's sweet. It makes me think before I speak. I become more mindful of my words. It makes me feel important. I like reading with my reading buddy. We have buddies, or we had a buddy program at school. So we have our fourth graders read with our kindergartners. And we have our second graders read with our fifth graders. So we were passing the cue ball around to get students to read. And it develops my critical thinking skills. I had a high school teacher share with me that this has empowered her students when running for student office or student council to speak better, or to elicit their words, to practice their speaking. So that she had shared that. I did not add in teacher comments, but I think when I give my presentation next time, I will consider adding teachers' comments. I always think that that is so powerful and enriching to hear how something makes our students feel when it's not necessarily the answer that we always expect. So, and taking, you know, the bad with the good is also important. I have another idea, just adding to our conversation, or my presentation rather. I have had students who like to be in charge of the cue ball. So I have a cue ball wanderer who makes sure that it's plugged in every day, that it's put back, that when it's time to take it out, he takes it out and he starts the throwing of it or the passing of it. There are videos as well on YouTube. There are blogs, which is also very interesting because we have first grade teachers, we have fifth grade teachers, and we have high school teachers who will just make sure that kids are on task with the use of the cue ball. So they might be teaching a math lesson and they're throwing the cue ball. What's 5 + 8? Or what's the operation that I used in this story problem? And then that gets kids to be on it, or really with paying attention. So I think that is very interesting too, how it's used. It can be used as a quick attention getter. It can also be used for something like Buzz Group. I did spend a lot of time introducing the device to my students, more so than I would in a general education classroom, because they're special education, and I wanted to make sure that we understand the value of what we're I want to make sure that we understand the value of what we're using, so that we don't intentionally damage it, and that we also show other students while on campus that this is not something that we damage intentionally. So that is neat. It's also an incentive. If I do this, I will make sure that I can use the cue ball. If I am more aware of my surroundings, if I'm more aware of what needs to be done and accomplished, then I will be able to use the cue ball, and my teacher will see that I'm doing what's important and I'm practicing my GLOs. I think that those are important things. Cue ball is also used in writing and brainstorming. Students are able to elicit ideas when doing thinking maps. So we have teachers who say, give me a word, give me an adjective that describes a wolf. Give me an adjective that describes how you're feeling today. Give me an adjective that describes an operation in math with this problem that we're doing. I really am passionate about this device because I've only seen the positives in classrooms. I did go over the pros and the cons. With that said, I'm going to just review what we talked about today. I gave a presentation on the Inquisitive cue ball, how it was introduced with Shark Tank and Shane Cox. I also introduced what the cue ball does and what it can do. I talked about the pros and the cons of the device. I also talked about how it is a device that involves students and builds them, makes them more powerful, emotionally, socially, as well as academically. And then I talked about ways for us to obtain one. You all are very lucky teachers, counselors, librarians, or fabulous men and women who gave up your Saturday morning to listen to me speak on this. And you're going to get one. So I'm going to make sure that I have your contact information before our presentation is over today. And we also talked about ways that we might be able to use it and practice our GLOs, as well as some standards that we can hit or that we can meet for students. I believe, with that said, that there are also some lessons on teachers, paid teachers, as well as other sites that teachers have said that they've built around the cue ball. But I have not used the cue ball as a lesson by itself. I've done them, or I've used it in 2 or 3 pronged lessons. So I'm using it to get kids to be engaged. I'm not teaching a lesson necessarily about the cue ball until I introduce it to the class. We also talked about the ways that we can get one, so sorry. And then we talked about what our students, or what my students have shared with the device, how it makes them feel, why they like using it, what brings them closer to want to use that again, and why I want to continue using the device, or why I think everyone should have one. When you get this cue ball, it is totally up to you. I just want to say, if you choose to keep that for yourself in your classroom, that's your choice. But I would strongly encourage you to use it in your teacher staff meeting, or use it in your grade level meeting, or use it in a way where other people see it, so that they start going, what is that? What is that neat device that you have? And then maybe you'll get buy-in. It's up to you if you want to share it. That's yours. It's my gift to you. If you use it in your school community or give it to your school, that's also your choice. So I really appreciate you all doing that, and providing me with the level of respect that I give to you. And I just really appreciate that you all took the time out on a Saturday to listen to this and to share with me your interest. I think I have everyone's, we're approaching 8:45 shortly here, but I think I have everyone's information. I'm just looking at the chat real quickly. I have names and I have schools, and I really like, Brenda, your comment that you shared, that yes, this would be a level up activity, and yes, it would work great. You are totally correct. It has been used in PE skills when I teach students to throw a softball, or skills for a softball. This is wonderful because you take it outside at recess, you take it out on the playground, and somebody accidentally steps on it, you're not having a big problem. It's a great feature. It's also a great feature for when a kid is angry and doesn't want to talk to you. Maybe he or she'll talk to the cue ball, so they can squeeze it, and that gets the effect instead of harming another student, which is something I deal with every day. So I also like it for that reason. I don't want to scare you guys. Yes, Heidi, thank you. I hope I'm saying your name correctly, from Kailua High School. Yes, I started with a beach ball, and then I started with a yarn ball to promote discussion. But yes, this is awesome and great. And I know awesome is an overused word, my apologies, but it is much better because it has a microphone. And what you just said is totally true. The quiet, soft-spoken individuals is why this is such a wonderful thing. It is 8:40 and I want to respect your time. However, I wanted to give you on my sheet right here, I wanted to make sure that if you did feel comfortable asking your questions out loud, you could go ahead and have a few minutes to ask me any questions that you have. I wanted to thank you for being here. And I'm glad that, Wendy, I'm so glad that you're going to use it in your classroom. That makes me so happy. Courtney, I'm so sorry. I know you're my chat coordinator. Just don't sign off when I'm done with my presentation because I need to write all their addresses. But I do want to share that I really appreciated you all being here and that you are taking the time to try this out with your kids. It's a really neat device, and I hope that you do use it and that you pass it along, because that's what makes teaching and education so fun. It's already a solitary profession, so let's make it not so much that. Yeah, so anyway, if anybody has any other questions or anything else you want to share with me, I'd be more than happy to listen. I will try to do, oh, I'm so sorry. I will try to do another presentation, hopefully next month or the following month, about critical thinking questions and how to build lessons with questioning with the cue ball. So stay tuned for that once you get your cue ball, because then you can learn how to build around it. I'm sorry, did somebody want to ask something? I'm so sorry.
Oh, sorry, that's just me.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Hello again. Just wanted to do something real quick before we get into questions,
Okay,
and then I have to
sure.
go to my next room after.
Okay.
So thank you, Ty, and for everyone's participation. We hope that you find this session helpful and make some valuable connections. We do have a survey to complete at the iTeach808 website, which I will link in the chat below. The survey will also be sent to the email address that you registered with. Please make sure to check your spam folder for any emails from the iTeach808hawaii@gmail.com as well. With this survey, you will be entered to win one of $25 Target gift cards if you complete the survey by February 4th. Thank you for being here today, and feel free to join any other sessions that we have coming up today. Have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for your time, Ty.
Bye.
And then you are the co-host, so even if I leave, you'll be in charge of this session after. So
Okay.
you'll have time to answer questions and anything like that. And then again, I'm linking the survey in the chat below.
Okay.
Cool.
Did anybody want to ask me some questions? We have 2 minutes.